the WWE, a billion-dollar organization, fans all over the world, billions of dollars in pay-per-views, movies, cable network deals. But it got its roots in the dirty, dingy, and dimly lit arenas all over Atlantic Canada. This week on Sackville Sunday Stories, we're talking about Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling. In or around 1979 or 1980, a bunch of us kids were playing out on Prince Street. We were playing hide and go seek, tag, British Bulldog, Red Rover, just all manner of outdoor games. So we finished up a round, and then I said, hey, let's do another round. What do you want to do? British Bulldog? There was a kid there. The kid's name was Keith Folks. Lived just down the street. He said, no, I got to get home. I said, why is that? He said, I got to watch Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling. Actually, I don't think he said Atlantic. We just called it Grand Prix Wrestling. He said, I got to go home and watch some Grand Prix Wrestling. I said, what's Grand Prix Wrestling? Keith had a look of shock and disgust on his face, like. And then that slowly changed to surprise, and then absolute delight. Because Keith realized in that moment that he was going to be the one to tell me all about the sport of professional wrestling. He told me all about the stories of the characters, the Great Malumba, No Class Bobby Bass, Big Leo Burke, all of these different people. The Spoiler, the man who wore the mask. No one had ever seen his face except his mother. And if he lost a match, he'd have to reveal his identity to the crowd. I was so intrigued. I said, why don't we go to my place and we'll watch it right now? So Keith agreed. Went to my house. And I really got into wrestling. I absolutely loved it. Couldn't get enough of it. Loved the stories. Loved the action. We don't realize how spoiled we were here in Atlantic Canada because a lot of the world's most famous wrestlers wrestled here in Halifax, in Moncton, in Bridgewater. They would come here to these different arenas. Later, they'd be scooped up by WWF, which then later became WWE. But they wrestled here. So one night, the Halifax Forum, my dad said, boys, I got you tickets to wrestling. I got you tickets to Grand Prix Wrestling at the Halifax Forum. My brother and I just about fell over. We got to see it live. We were incredibly excited. Probably the most notorious of the ones that Keith told me about was a man named Killer Carl Croup. Killer Carl Croup, he said, would come to the ring. He wore a big black cape. He had a beard and goatee type, shaved in really aggressive ways. He wore a monocle and a bald head. He'd come out, Bill McCullough was the guy's name that did the announcement. He'd be like, Mr. McCullough, I'm gonna mop the floor with Leo Burke. He'd come out with a mop, and they're gonna need to mop his body up. It was like to a kid, we're like, oh my God, he's gonna murder him. Keith said that he had fingernails. That actually he had the German claw, and he said he would take his fingernails and drive them in through the skull. And he would put them in far enough to incapacitate them, but not enough to kill them. True story. That's what he told me. He actually used to just crush their head, but at that time I was ready to believe anything. And we were excited. We were ecstatic. We got into the forum. We were watching all the matches, having the fan, just amazed. My brother and I are way up in the stands. We're just like, oh my God, oh my God. And then they announced the main event, the tag team match, the match to end all matches. This is I still say it's my favorite wrestling match. Maybe 1999 Hell in a Cell, that was pretty crazy, but this, at that age, was insane. The tag team match consisted of Sweet Daddy Siki and the Cuban Assassin versus the Great Pogo and Bulldog Bob Brown. What a setup. I said to my dad, Dad, can Ryan and I go down to ringside? Big crowded arena, packed to capacity. Dad said, sure, no problem. Ryan and I had little curly afros, so Dad said as he watched us go down the stairs, just the lighting, He could see the shine through our afros. He could pick us out like anywhere in the arena. He could pick us out perfectly. So Dad just watched. We ran right down to the gates. And that was incredibly exciting, okay? Not just the wrestling match, but the other hardcore wrestling fans. I'd never seen a little old lady give the finger to a wrestler before. She just flipped it right up and was cursing and swearing and drinking beer. And I was like, little old ladies don't do that. But this one did. She was into her wrestling. So out they come. Sweet Daddy Siki used to come out to the ring. Had his hair dyed yellow, not blonde, yellow. Big mustache and glasses. He had a little hand mirror. He held one in this hand and he held one in the other hand. And he would hold them up just so we could always check his hair, check the back of his hair. His tag team partner, the Cuban Assassin, big bushy beard, nasty. Great Pogo came out. He swung nunchucks. And big Bulldog Bob Brown, just a big, ugly, tough dude. They got into the ring and they're going at it. And they're slapping and punching and kicking and pile driving and jumping off the ropes. It was incredible. Then, the fight moves out of the ring. And we're like, whoa! We're right up against the rail, like leaning like this. We're like, whoa! Right up against the rail. Then they come out and they go over the rail. And now they're just fighting like feet from us. The sweat and the blood is flying at us. We're like, oh my God, this is insane. Little scrubbies jean jackets getting sweat and blood. And they're duking it out. People are throwing chairs. And they're throwing chairs back. Incredibly violent and awesome. My brother looks at me and goes, let's get out of here. I said, why? He's like, they're coming this way. And they were fighting towards us. Then all of a sudden, Cuban Assassin and the Great Pogo, they fight and they just run back towards the dressing rooms. And they're gone for like 5 minutes while the match continues. A few minutes later, both of them come running back to the ring, drenched in blood. Now, it's probably they just went back in the dressing room and covers himself with some fake blood or what have you. But in our eyes, a battle just took place that we didn't see. They came back and they scrapped it out and they fought even more. And they battled and fought. And my brother and I cheered and screamed and hurrahed like it was the most incredible thing we'd ever seen. And it was live. That's the thing. You would watch these guys on television. And then you could go see them. Just about anything on television in those days you could go to because it was local television. These guys we watched on TV every week, fighting it out and duking it. And now there we were, just 3-4 feet away, and they're just smacking and slapping and grinding. It was probably one of my favorite memories is going to the Halifax Forum to watch Grand Prix Wrestling. And then, of course, like anything, it just kind of became this big, giant commercial mega house. And then all these small wrestling leagues were kind of snapped up and amalgamated into really one big mega force. But I still remember those days. I still remember going out and seeing it live, and it was absolutely fantastic. So, if you do love wrestling, just remember that its roots are firmly planted here in Atlantic Canada. That's it for this week's Sackville Sunday Stories. Join us every Sunday. Whether you're a Sack villain or a Sack vegan, we're here with Sackville Sunday Stories.